Okay, so for this video, perspective naman ang aton nga storyahan. So anong perspective? A perspective projection is a type of drawing that graphically approximates on the planar or two-dimensional surface. Example, papel. Okay, so flat surface lang na pero gina-project mo ang isa ka three-dimensional graphically sa isa ka planar surface. So the images of three-dimensional objects so as to approximate actual visual perception. So kung sa inyo nga graphics ang una, so gintudloan ka mo kung paano mag project sang mga perspective. It's either 2-point perspective, 1-point perspective, 3-point perspective, or multi-point. May ginatawag man kita nga multi-point perspective. May aragay kita 4-point perspective and 5-point. So istoryahan na karon. So it is sometimes also called as perspective view or perspective drawing or simply perspective. So all perspectives on a planar surface have some degree of distortion. So it's similar to the distortion created when portraying the Earth surface or planar map. So may ara kita di examples sa mga perspective. So this is a 1-point perspective. Then this is a 2-point perspective. Ang ari 1-point perspective ni siya. Okay, so ang sa dire sa 1-point perspective, 1 point lang siya tungod nga isa lang ka point sa horizon ang aton nga ginbutang. And then this is 2-point perspective wherein duha ka points and then intersect sila. Then this is 3-point perspective, so tatlo ka points. And then this is a multi-point perspective. Kay multiple number of points ang makita nyo dire. And then this is a 4-point perspective, kay apat siya. And this is a 5-point perspective sa 2, 3, 4 and sa center. So this is 5-point perspective. So ang linear perspective, it is the art of representing the three-dimensional construction on a two-dimensional surface. So it presupposes a fixed viewpoint and a desire to create an objective recording of one's visual experience, two conditions which have been the most dominant in Western art of past half millennium. And then may ara kita nga 1-point perspective. So if the viewpoint is pointing directly into a linear object, like a building or a road, one would use one vanishing point. And that is the principal focus. So all lines perpendicular to that painting plate would vanish and vanishing point. So muna siya ang 1-point perspective. Pareho sang ginpakita to kagina nga isa lang siya ka point. So these are the example of 1-point perspective. Kay isa lang siya ka point. So ang sa mo nga picture diri ang isa ya ka point. Then this is the horizon line. Then among man siya, isa man siya ka point dire. Then the next is the 2-point perspective. So if the lines have angles to the painting plate, so they would vanish in the other vanishing points. So there are a lot of vanishing point homologous to different angles. So but all vanishing points should be located in the same horizon line with the focus. So this is the example of 2-point perspective. So duwa ang iyang point sa duwa. And then diri amo man siya. Okay, so may ara man kita ginatawag nga vertical 2-point perspective wherein instead nga ang iyang vanishing point, ang duwa ka vanishing point ara sa horizon line, so vertical siya. So ang example is amo ni siya. This is a drawing wherein may vertical kita nga line and then ang vanishing point mo is duwa ka bilog. So that is vertical 2-point perspective. So the next one is 3-point perspective. So if the lines have angles from the painting plate up or down, so one would use the other kind of vanishing points. So those vanishing points must be located in the same vertical line with focus. So looking at the object from above or below, so the horizon line with the focus and all other second vanishing point would left the horizon up or down. So 3-point perspective exists when the image plane is viewing a Cartesian plane. So a scene composed entirely of linear elements intersecting at right angles. So and it is not parallel to any scene's three axes. So elements that are parallel to each of the three axes will converge to three vanishing point respectively. So mo siya ang aton nga example. So this is a 3-point perspective. So tatlo ang iyang points. Ang aring example nga ni is worm's eye wherein halin ka diri sa dalom gatulo ka pababaw. So ang ingwa yan na is dako ang area sa dalom and then gamat-amat siya kagamay samtang nagapababaw siya. So that is a worm's eye view. So may ara kita di duwa ka point sa aton nga horizon line and then may ara kita isa nga ara sa vertical line. So ang another one is bird's eye view wherein ang naga-view sa nga imo nga drawing is ara sa babaw. So ara pa digay may nakabutang sa definition nga si Superman siya ang galantaw padalom. So ano naman siya baliskad naman siya dako ang sa babaw then gamat-amat siya pagamay samtang gapadalom siya. So tatlo man ang iyang point. So ari day sa babaw and then ara sa dalom. So that is a 3-point perspective. So ang next is a multi-point perspective. So the last type of linear perspective is a multi-point perspective. So it is the case when there are more than two primary vanishing points on the horizon line. So surprisingly, this is the most common type of perspective we can observe in the real world. So here's when you should use a multi-point perspective. So magamit kita sa multi-point perspective when the objects in our scene don't lie in the same orthogonal grid or when the sketching curve road. So kung curve ang aton nga roads nga ginaobra, so multi-point perspective ang aton ginagamit. Or when you want to add the visual variation, so breaking out from a boredom of a single orthogonal grid. And the last one is when sketching non-orthogonal objects like pentagon shapes. So muni ang examples ng aton nga multi-point perspective. So muna siya. So multi-point perspective ni siya ginagamit. Kay wala siya naga-parallel sa isa lang ka grid. And then ang ari it's also a multi-point perspective ang winding staircase naton. So mabudlay ni siya if gamiton mabudlay ni siya if ang imong gamiton is 2-point perspective or 3-point perspective. So that is the time when you use the multi-point perspective. So may ara pagid kita mga rare nga mga kinds of perspective like the curvilinear perspective. So it is another type of projection different from all linear perspective as it introduces curves into the grid system. So the curvilinear perspective grids work with 4, 5, and even 6 primary vanishing points. So they can also divided into these categories based on their type of field of vision. So may ara kita nga cylindrical field of vision which is 4 vanishing points. And then the hemispherical field of vision which has 5 vanishing points and the spherical field of vision which has 6 vanishing points. So amo ni siya ang example sa aton nga curvilinear perspective. So this is a 4-point perspective. And then this is a 5-point perspective. So gagamit kita sa mga curves sa aton nga projection. Then amo man ni siya, may curves man siya. So that is curvilinear projection or perspective. So may ara kita 4 points of view in photography. So may ara kita worm's eye view kung nagatulog ka halin sa dalom. And then there are man's eye view or normal view. Wherein height lang sang normal nga tao ang ginagamit. And then the bird's eye view or nagaturo ka halin sa babaw. So that is the points of view in perspective in projection. So the bird's eye view. So when photographing a subject from above, it is known as a bird's eye view. So this could be taken up in the sky, such as flying in a plane, or simply be taken by standing on a ladder slightly above your subject. So ang example natin sa bird's eye or aerial perspective is amo ni siya. So kalabanan sa mga thesis, amo na siyang ginagamit. Aerial perspective or bird's eye view. Kaya ang panulukan mo doon ara ka sa do pis-pis ka. So that's the reason why it is called bird's eye view. And then naman siya ang akong binubasang nagathesis ako 5th year. So this is also an aerial perspective. So second is the man's eye view or eye level or frontal perspective. So this is the common way to photograph a subject. So after all, this is typically the way we regard most subjects in our day-to-day lives, especially other people. So ginagamit ni siya, usually amo ni siya ginagamit kay wala naga-distort ang imong lines. So tadlong lang gid ang ato nga mga linya. Ang mga vertical lines naton. So that is man's eye view. Mo siya man's eye view man siya. So as you can see, tadlong ang aton nga mga linya. Then the third is the worm's eye view. So photographing from below is sometimes referred to as worm's eye view. So as if you were a worm looking up at the world around you. So ano siya. So as you can notice, naga-distort ang lines naton. So as if nga while naga-photograph ka sang perspective ara ka sa field of vision sang isa ka worm. So it's either naga-hapa ka while naga-photograph. So muna siya ang worm's eye view. So muna siya, worm's eye view man siya. So ginagamit naton ang worm's eye view usually sa mga high-rise nga mga perspective. So rendering perspective. So pwede nga hand drawn lang siya or manual. Or pwede nga computer-generated rendering siya. Like, magamit kita sang softwares like Lumion, V-Ray, Enscape. So that is a computer-generated renderings. So common types of architectural rendering is first is exterior rendering, and then interior renderings. Wherein nang ginapakita is ang sulod sang balay. Then the aerial rendering or sa babaw. So exterior renderings are defined as images where the vantage point or viewing angle is located outside of the building. So while interior renderings are defined as images where the vantage point or viewing angle is located inside the building. So aerial rendering are similar to exterior renderings. However, their viewing angle is located outside and above the building, looking down usually at an angle. So that is all sa aton nga perspective. So this is an example sa uh, 3D model sa nga ginobra sa SketchUp. So this is a raw 3D model. So makita nyo nga ara pa ang mga lines. So once nga gin-render ni siya sa V-Ray or sa Lumion, madula na ni siya ang mga lines nga ni. So this is worm's eye view. Ano siya, worm's eye view ni siya. Worm's eye view. Amo na siya mag-render sa worm's eye view. And then, kung gusto mo nga man's eye view naman, so pwede mo magamit ni ang command position camera. And then, butang mo siya kung din mo siya gustong location mo project. And then, siya. So that is man's eye view. So naka-level na ni siya approximately sa height sang isa ka tao. And then the bird's eye view. So may isang bird's eye view para ka sa bubble. And mo-project ka sa perspective. So may i-link ako diri nga tutorial using SketchUp. Pero free version lang to ang ginabutang ko dito. And available siya basta may internet ka lang. So i-link ko lang ang YouTube video. So dito sa video nga to, interior na dito ang akon nga interior, making an interior perspective na dito ang akon nga gintudlo. Pero pwede nyo man to magamit ang mga commands dito in preparing a exterior model or perspective sang inyong balay. Or if may ara ka mo sang Revit or sa Revit ka mo maobra sang model, pwede man. So depende sa inyo if diin mas comfortable sa inyo magamit. Pwede man ato ang free version, okay lang man sa akon. Or kung gusto niyo nga mas nami pagid and mas hipid ang output, pwede nga i-render nyo siya i-model nyo siya sa Revit and then i-render nyo siya using Enscape. So, ara man si Sir Kim para magtudlo sa inyo. So, that is all para sa perspective. So, this is the most enjoyable part sang pag-obra sang plano. So, ang making your 3D model. So, dire mo na dayon i-base ang imong elevations. So this is the second phase mag-generate sang design mo. Ang first phase is maobra ka sang floor plan and then i-import mo ang floor plan mo diri sa another application para mag-obra sang 3D model. And obrahan mo na daan sa mga details. Okay, so that's all.